We have been reading this very interesting and important book written by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and we have so far covered 30 pages, and it's a Baba Saheb's analytical take on the very important point concerning the understanding of the philosophy of religion. And today we will carry on where we left last time. I request Nikhil to please continue reading, and then we will stop wherever we can to continue to discuss. Nikhil bhai.
Yeah. So we are at page number 31 from the PDF. So I'll start reading. So far, I have taken for illustrations such matters as serve to show how Manu has ordained social inequality. I now propose to take other matters dealt with by Manu in order to illustrate that Manu has also ordained religious inequality. These are matters which are connected with what are called sacraments and ashrams. The Hindus, like the Christians, believe in sacraments. The only difference is that the Hindus have so many of them that even the Roman Catholic Christians would be surprised at the extravagant number observed by the Hindus. Originally, their number was 40 and covered the most trivial as well as the most important occasions in a person's life. First, they were reduced to 20, later on, it was reduced to 16, and at that figure, the sacraments of the Hindus have remained stabilized. Before I explain how, at the core of these rules of sacraments, there lies the spirit of inequality, the reader must know what the rules are. It is impossible to examine all. It will be enough if I deal with a few of them. I will take only three categories of them, those relating with initiation, Gayatri, and daily sacrifices.
Okay, this is very interesting sort of remarks of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, because prior to this, when he was analyzing the philosophy of Hinduism, he has demonstrated through the code of Manu as to how Manu promotes the social inequality. And now Baba Saheb Ambedkar has trained the guns of his argument to show that how Manusmriti and Hinduism promotes what is called the religious inequality. And I think it's very important that the basis of religion itself is the inequality, the sacraments that Baba Sambedkar is talking about, the rituals, like there are a lot of rituals in a lot of different religions, and those rituals are open to all the people who are the members of that religion. But when it comes to Hindu religion or the Brahminical Hindu religion, we will see that there is also religious inequality, and it's very significant. So Hinduism is not just about the social inequality, like inequality in terms of punishment or different codes that Baba Ambedkar has analyzed in the previous sections. Here, I think very interesting sort of a distinction that Baba Ambedkar has made in terms of social inequality versus and religious inequality. So the Hinduism not only promotes social inequality, but also religious inequality. And I think that's a remarkable classification, which we're going to look into as Nikhil reads on. Nikhil bhai, please go on reading.
First, as to initiation. This initiation is effected by the investitude of a person with the sacred thread. The following are the most important rules of Manu regarding the sacrament of investitude. 236. In the 8th year from the conception of a Brahman, in the 11th from that of a Kshatriya, in the 12th from that of a Vaishya, let the father invest the child with the mark of his class. 237. Should a Brahmin or his father for him be desirous of his advancement in sacred knowledge, a Kshatriya of extending his power, or a Vaishya of engaging in mercantile business, the investitude may be made in the 5th, 6th, or 8th years respectively. 238. The ceremony of investitude, hallowed by the Gayatri, must not be delayed in the case of a priest beyond the 16th year, nor in that of a soldier beyond the 22nd, nor in that of a merchant beyond the 24th. 239. After that, all youths of these three classes who have not been invested at the proper time become pratyas or outcasts, degraded from the Gayatri and condemned by the virtuous. 147. Let a man consider that as a mere human birth, which his parents gave him for their mutual gratification and which he receives after lying in the womb. To 148. But that birth which his principal Acharya, who knows the whole Veda, procures for him by his divine mother, the Gayatri, is a true birth. The birth is exempt from age and from death. To 169. The first birth is from a natural mother, the second from the litigation of the zone, the third from the due performance of the sacrifice. Such are the births of him who is usually called twice born, according to the text of the Veda. To 170. Among them, his divine birth is that which is distinguished by the litigation of the zone and sacrificial cord, and in that birth, the Gayatri is his mother and Acharya his father. Then let me come to
Okay.
Gayatri. Yeah.
Okay. So you see, Baba Saheb Ambedkar has talked about the religious inequalities that is promoted by Manu in three areas. So the first area is, of course, initiation. Second is the Gayatri Mantra, and the third is the daily sacrifices. So when it comes to the Gayatri Mantra, when it comes to the initiation, like this Janevu ceremony or what is called Upanayan, and what is called Dvija, the twice born. So even among the twice born or the so-called Dvijas, there is a discrimination in terms of the age at which the various ceremonies would be performed. So for example, for the Brahmin, 8th year from conception, 11th for Kshatriya, and 12th from that of a Vaishya. Okay, so to mark with the class in which he is born, or he is born, because she is not allowed. There is no ritual for women in Hinduism. And then if we look at the second one, that the various sort of sacraments are performed at the age of 5th, 6th, and 8th. And if they fail to perform all these ceremonies by the age, in case of priest beyond 16th, and soldier 22nd, and merchant beyond 24th, and if they fail, then they will become the outcast or the vratyas. You see, even in this sacraments, there is a discrimination even among the dvijas. So what Baba Saheb Ambedkar is talking in terms of the religious inequality, which is inbuilt in Hinduism, and this is how it unfolds in the various sort of classes and the varnas, is very pertinent here, because for the Shudras and for the Atushudras, there is no ritual. They are born only once, while the Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya are born twice. They are called Dvija. And this spells it out about the what is called the initiation. Now let's look at the second area in which the religious discrimination exists, inequality exists. That is the area of Gayatri. Please go on, Nikhil, reading. Nikhil? Are you here?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, very much so, very much so.
Okay. Then let me come to Gayatri. Is it a mantra or an invocation of special spiritual efficacy? Manu explains what it is. 276. Brahma milked out, as it were, from the three Vedas, the letter A, the letter U, and the letter M, which form by their coalition the trilateral monosyllable, together with three mysterious words: Bhar, Bhuva, Swar, or earth, sky, heaven. 277. From the three Vedas, also the Lord of creatures, incomprehensibly exalted, successfully milled out the three measures of that infallible text, he beginning with the word Tad and entitled Savitri or Gayatri. 278. A priest who shall know the Veda and shall pronounce to himself both morning and evening that syllable and that holy text preceded by the three words shall attain the sanctity which the Veda confers. 279. And a twice born man who shall 1,000 times repeat those three, or the Vyaritis or and the Gayatri, apart from the multitude, shall be released in a month, even from a great offense, as a snake from his slough. 280. The priest, the soldier, and the merchant who shall neglect this mysterious text and fail to perform in due season his peculiar acts of piety shall meet with contempt among the virtuous. 281. The great immutable words preceded by the trilateral syllable and followed by the Gayatri, which consist of the three measures, must be considered as the mouth or principal part of the Veda. 282. Whoever shall repeat day by day for 3 years without negligence that sacred text shall hereafter approach the divine essence, move as freely as air, and assume an ethereal form. 1183. The trilateral monosyllable is an emblem of the supreme, the suppressions of breath, with a mind fixed on God are the highest devotion, but nothing is more exalted than the Gayatri. A declaration of truth is more excellent than silence. 1184. All rites ordained in the Veda, oblations to fire, and solemn sacrifices pass away, but that which passes not away is declared to be the syllable Om, thence called Akshar, since it is a symbol of God, the Lord of created beings. 285. The act of repeating his holy name is 10 times better than the appointed sacrifice, and 100 times better when it is heard by no man, and 1,000 times better when it is purely mental. 286. The four domestic sacraments which are accompanied with the appointed sacrifice are not equal, though all be united to a 16th part of sacrifice performed by a repetition of the Gayatri. Now to the daily sacrifices.
Wait,
360. Yeah.
wait. Because this needs to be a little bit thrown light upon. Is there is so much talk about the Gayatri mantra, and we often hear Om Bhu Bhuvasya and whatnot. And this is what is being explained here by Baba Saheb Ambedkar through Manu as to what is this mantra all about. So, this mantra, these three syllables like A, U, and M, they are Om, Om, Om. So it precedes sort of the mantras of the Brahmins that when they say Om, Bhu, Bhuva, Bhuvaswar, whatever they say. So, this uh, particular emphasis on the Gayatri mantra, one can understand by reading this kind of a text when we begin to know that that what is there in those mantras, the so-called sacred mantras of the Dvijas. These mantras are not even the mantras of the Hindus, they are the mantras of the Dvijas. Nobody can listen them except the so-called Dvijas. So you see, there is this verse number 80. The priest, the soldier, and the merchant who shall neglect this mysterious text and fail to perform in due season his peculiar acts of piety shall meet with contempt among the virtuous. So it's like, imposing the mantra on this, what is called the Dvijas, in a sense of making it only available for the people who belong to the twice born community. And this is also one of the ways by which why the other people are debarred from chanting this kind of a mantra. So it's very significant here, and we see even in the temples, this now Gayatri mantra is being played again and again, and all over the places these mantras are played again and again. So we see this discussion here has got relevance even for today. All right, carry on with reading of daily sacrifices and how they create religious inequality. Go on.
Now to the daily sacrifices. 369. For the sake of expiating offenses committed ignorantly in those places mentioned in order, the five great sacrifices were appointed by eminent sages to be performed each day by such as keep house. 370. Teaching and studying the scripture is the sacrifice to the Veda, offering cakes and water, the sacrifice to the mains, an oblation to fire, the sacrifice to the deities, giving rice or other food to living creatures, the sacraments of spirits, receiving guests with honor, the sacrifice to men. 371. Whoever omits not those five great sacrifices, if he has ability to perform them, is unattained by the sons of the five slaughtering places, even though he constantly resides at home. Turning to the ashramas, the ashram theory is a peculiar feature of the philosophy of Hinduism. It is not known to have found a place in the teachings of any other religion. According to the ashram theory, life is to be divided into four stages called brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. In the brahmachari stage, a person is unmarried and devotes his time to the study and education. After this stage is over, he enters the stage of grahastha, that is, he marries, rears a family, and attends to his worldly welfare. Thereafter, he enters the third stage and is then known as Vanprast. As a Vanprast, he dwells in the forest as a hermit, but without severing his ties with his family or without abandoning his rights to his worldly goods. Then comes the fourth and the last stage, that of sannyas, which means complete renunciation of the world in search of God. The two stages of brahmachari and grahastha are natural enough. The last two stages are only recommendatory. There is no compulsion about them. All that Manu lays down is as follows. 6 1. A twice born who has thus lived according to the law in the order of householders may, taking a firm resolution and keeping his organs in subjection, dwell in the forest duly, observing the rules given below. 6 uh, 2. When a householder sees his skin wrinkled and his hair white and the sons of his son, then he may resort to the forest. 6.3. Abandoning all food raised by cultivation, all his belongings, he may depart into the forest, either committing his wife to his sons or accompanied by her. 633. But having passed the third part of a man's natural term of life in the forest, he may live as an ascetic during the fourth part of his existence after abandoning all attachment to worldly objects. The inequality embodied in these rules is real, although it may not be quite obvious. Observe that all these sacraments and ashramas are confined to the twice born. The Shudras are excluded from their benefit. Manu, of course, has no objection to their undergoing the forms of the ceremonies, but he objects to their use of the sacred mantras in the performance of the ceremonies. On this, Manu says, 10:127. Even Shudras who were anxious to perform their entire duty and knowing what they should perform, imitate the practice of good men in the household sacraments, but without any holy text except those containing praise and salutation, are so far from sinning that they acquire just applause. See the following text of Manu for women. 266. The same ceremonies, except that of the sacrificial thread, must be duly performed for the same age and in the same order, that the body may be made perfect, but without any text from the Veda. Why does Manu prohibit the Shudras from the benefit of the sacraments? His interdict against the Shudras becoming a sannyasi is a puzzle. Sannyas means and involves renunciation, abandonment of worldly object. In the legal language, sannyas is interpreted as being equivalent to civil death. So that when a man becomes a sannyasi, he is treated as being dead from that moment and his hair succeeds immediately. This would be only consequence which would be allowed if a Shudra become a sannyasi. Such a consequence could hurt nobody except the Shudra himself. Why then this interdict? The issue is important, and I will quote Manu to explain the significance and importance of the sacraments and sannyas. Let us ponder over the following relevant texts of Manu. 226. With holy rites prescribed by the Veda, must the ceremony on conception and other sacraments be performed for twice born men, which sanctify the body and purify from sin in this life and after death. 228, by the study of the Veda, by vows, by burnt oblations, by recitation of sacred texts, by acquisition of the three sacred Vedas, by offering to the gods, rishis, and mains, by the procreation of sons, by the great sacrifices, and by Srota rites, this human body is made fit for union with Brahma. This is the aim and object of the Samaskaras. Manu also explains the aim and object of sannyas. 681, he, the sannyasi, who has in this manner gradually given up all attachments and is freed from all the pairs of opposites, reposes in Brahman alone. 685, a twice born man who becomes an ascetic after the successive performance of the above mentioned acts, shakes off sin here below and reaches the highest Brahman. From these texts, it is clear that according to Manu himself, the object of these sacraments is to sanctify the body and purify it from sin in this life and hereafter, and to make it fit for union with God. According to Manu, the object of sannyas to reach and repose in God. Yet Manu says that the sacraments and sannyas are the privileges of the higher classes. They are not open to the Shudra. Why? Does not a Shudra need sanctification of his body, purification of his soul? Does not a Shudra need to have an aspiration to reach God? Manu probably would have answered these questions in the affirmative. Why did he then make such rules? The answer is that he was a staunch believer in social inequality and he knew the danger of admitting religious equality. If I am equal before God, why I am not equal on earth? Manu was probably terrified by this question. Rather than admit and allow religious equality to affect social inequality, he preferred to deny religious equality.
Okay. Uh, to me, the foregoing discussion was of a very important consequence because it seems that Baba Saheb Ambedkar is quoting Manu, and he's asking us to read the so-called text of Manu Smriti and Manu Code, and apparently on the face of it, it looks little bit not exciting to read because it's all about Manu and the laws of Manu. But if you really want to understand the Indian society and the position of the Shudras, who constitute like the huge percentage of population in our country, and they are under the spell of so-called Brahminical Hinduism, not knowing the reality of their servitude to the Dvijas. If you can explain even a few paragraphs of these important books, it will have a revolutionary effect on them. And from this perspective, these paragraphs are historically important, but also they have a great contemporary relevance. For example, now this whole discussion that Baba Saheb Ambedkar had was to show that how the so-called access to divinity was denied to the Shudras and the Avarnas and so on and so forth, showing that the God was just for the so-called Dvijas. And if the God is only for the so-called Dvijas, and the Vedas, the study of Vedas was banned to the Shudras and also to the women, as we have seen now, just now. And in the history, it has unfolded like this, that when Shahu Maharaj wanted to perform this ceremonies, the religious ceremonies, he was denied the right to be to the recitation of what is called the Veda, and the episode is called Vedokta Prakaran. That's how Shahu Maharaj became very agitated with Brahmanism. That even if I am a king, I am the ruler of Kolhapur state, such a big man, the Brahmins are denying me the rights based on the Vedas, and he rebelled. And this thing happened with Shivaji as well. He also had to rebel, and a lot of these people had to rebel because the Brahmins insisted that they cannot have the ceremonies or the mantras recited straight out of Vedas. So these particular sections in the philosophy of Hinduism that Baba Saheb Ambedkar has put and quoted Manu very extensively, they are like so important even for today. If we can explain a few of them in the popular language, even if we can translate them, this book, and make available in different languages, people will have a tremendous sort of a shock to know that what has been done to them and what is being done to them. So this is sort of the I would say the importance, the revolutionary importance of this book. And that is why, I wanted this book to be read in our virtual reading group because of this. So you see, whenever we talk about Hindu religion, we talk about the social inequality. But within the religion itself, there is a religious inequality that some people are, barred from attending to what is called the divine according to their religious scheme. And this sacraments and these ceremonies are very important according to their scheme of the things to attend to divine. And those very sacraments are denied to the women and the Shudras. That is the revolutionary significance of this, to understand how religious inequality is prevalent in the Brahminical Hinduism. So I would say, I would request the readers of the book to have a little bit patience, because he has been quoting from Manusmriti, he has been quoting from the Hindu text to make his point, to bring to hit the nail squarely on its head. And therefore I think it's the reading of this book has a lot of potential to understand even the contemporary Hindu society. So anybody would like to comment or add on this, what is called the religious inequality? Yes, Mahasenji.
I think this denial of sacrament is the basis for imposing prohibition of temple entry.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Good point.
So this is the basis why the Shudras were denied temple entry also.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to mention.
Yes. So imagine a situation where if the Shudras in India start reading this book, or start reading Manusmriti, or even start reading Vedas, how much awakened they will be. So our duty is to promote this knowledge, let people understand what's the reality, what's happening in this country, and what has happened in the religion. It's not just about social inequality, but also religious inequality.
And this Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj actually didn't revolt against this. That may be the reason why Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar had not much aligned with Chhatrapati Shivaji later on.
That's true, because he liked more than
he had sent his representatives to Varanasi, Kashi,
yes,
to invite Gaga to perform that ceremony.
Yes.
Somehow he wanted to have that ceremony.
Yes.
He would have said that I don't want this ceremony to happen. I don't recognize such kind of ceremony itself. But he didn't say like that.
Yeah. Very true. And
this was the difference.
Yeah.
And that's why Babasaheb Ambedkar perhaps wanted to keep Shivaji aloof from our.
Your voice is not there, Mahasenji.
Hello?
Now it's there.
No, that may be the reason why, despite of the fact that Jyotiba Phule, he accepted as his guru, and Jyotiba Phule actually searched the Samadhi of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, etc. That link is there. But still, he vociferously did not mention anywhere about the Shivaji Maharaj in latter stage. Once he had celebrated Jayanti ceremony at Badlapur, but latter stage he didn't give much recognition to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
That's very true. He said that Shahu Maharaj is far bigger than any Chhatrapati.
Yeah. That's the thing.
You're right. But there is another version which has now brought up by the Maratha Mahaseva Sangha and all that, when they try to claim that there is other Bahujan side to Shivaji. And whatever that is, we will not fall into that discussion today. We understand the point of what
we limit our discussion up till here only.
Yes. Anybody? Velonna is.
No. Continue. I'm just listening to the discussion. Important, very interesting. Please continue.
Very right. No, like this sort of reading can become tedious, because we are not we do not feel excited to read what Manu has said about this thing and that thing. What is the remarkable genius of Baba Saheb Ambedkar is to really categorize the various aspects of Manusmriti in terms of jurisprudence, and now he's talking about religious inequality, and in the discussion that is coming up, he will be elaborating a lot of important points. And we need this background, we need these references to really understand the logic that Baba Saheb Ambedkar is trying to put forward. So I would say have some patience, and it will yield a lot of insights and a lot of tools for us to talk, to think, and to communicate. So all right, we will go on reading. Nikhil, please go on reading further.
Thus, in Hinduism, you will find both social inequality and religious inequality embedded in its philosophy. To prevent man from purifying himself from sin, to prevent man from getting near to God, to any rational person, such rules must appear to be abominable and an indication of a perverse mind. It is a glaring instance of how Hinduism is a denial not only of equality, but how it is denial of the sacred character of human personality. This is not all, for Manu does not stop with the non-recognition of human personality. He advocates a deliberate debasement of human personality. I will take only two instances to illustrate this feature of the philosophy of Hinduism.
Yeah, Nikhil, we will just think about this few lines, because I think they are so crucial for understanding the philosophy of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Because this, what is called the phrase human personality comes again and again in the writing and speeches of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. And for Baba Saheb Ambedkar, he didn't believe in the soul, he didn't believe in what is called the Atma or whatever. But he was a strong advocate of what is called the human personality. And for him, the highest aim of life was to cultivate the human personality, and any cultivation of human personality must begin with the acknowledgement that the human personality is sacred. Now, this is a very finer point that I'm trying to put across is, unless we understand the human personality and the reclamation of human personality, said my battle is for the reclamation of human personality. If we know these beautiful lines of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, said that my battle is not for power, my battle is not for wealth, my battle is totally spiritual, and it's for the reclamation of human personality. You see in this discussion, in these two paragraphs, what Baba Saheb Ambedkar is trying to say is this, that the Hinduism is a complete denial of the sacred character of human personality. And leave aside the denial of the sacred character of human personality, it has gone on debasing the human personality. You can write volumes on the degradation of human personality that Hinduism has done, particularly when we look at the status of the the so-called untouchables and unseeables and unapproachables and tribals, criminal tribes, and the Shudras, and the Brahmin women and the Shudra women, and so on and so forth. We can see that how this philosophy of Brahmanism has not only denied the sacredness to the human personality, but it has also debased the human personality. How profound is this insight? If we can just unfold this discussion and bring it out in the open, let people talk about it, let people discuss about it as to what is human personality and how its sacredness has been denied by the very Brahmanism. Not only denial of the sacredness of the human personality, but also the complete rejection, dejection, and debasement of the human personality. I think this is very profound sort of an insight that Baba Saheb Ambedkar has brought forth. And I would like you to, if anybody would like to reflect on this, they are more than welcome, because this is a very important point. It's a very vital point, I would say.
Sir, if I may be permitted.
Go on.
So in contrast, we can understand Dhamma variable in such references.
Exactly.
And this is the another chapter we should open it. In contrast, and now clear cut we can recognize Dhamma.
Exactly, that's very important insight. Umesh bhai. So that's why, when you read text like this, we have to keep Buddhism in mind and compare in our minds what is Buddhism, how it contrasts with the Brahmanism and so on and so forth. It's a diametrically opposite. Sorry, it's another pole altogether. It's an opposite pole altogether.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Nikhil, continue to read, please.
Page 37. All those who study the caste system are naturally led to inquire into the origin of it. Manu, being the progenitor of caste, had to give an explanation of the origin of the various castes. What is the origin which Manu gives? His explanation is simple. He says that leaving aside the four original castes, the rest are simply base born. He says they are the progeny of fornication and adultery between men and women of the four original castes. The immorality and looseness of character among men and women of the four original castes must have been limitless to account for the rise of innumerable castes consisting of innumerable souls. Manu makes the wild
See
allegation.
the twist in the logic, the sort of contradiction in what Manu says and what is in reality. He says there are only four, classes, varnas. But if you see out in the world, there are so many castes, so many thousands. You see the logic now, the way Baba Saheb Ambedkar has, they brought out contradiction between what Manu says and what is the reality. Please go on, Nikhil.
Manu makes the wild allegation without stopping to consider what aspersions he is casting upon men and women of the four original castes. For if the Chandals, the old name for the untouchables, are the progeny of a Brahmin female and a Shudra male, then it is obvious that to account for such a large number of Chandals, it must be assumed that every Brahmin woman was slut and a bore, and every Shudra lived an adulterous life with complete abandon. Manu, in his mad just for debasing the different castes by ascribing to them an ignoble origin, seems deliberately to pervert historical facts. I will give only two illustrations. Take Manu's origin of Magadha and Vedic and compare it with the origin of some caste as given by Panini, the great grammarian. Manu says that Magadha is a caste which is born from sexual intercourse between Vaishya male and Kshatriya female. Manu says that Vedic is a caste which is born from sexual intercourse between a Vaishya male and a Brahmin female. Now turn to Panini. Panini says that Magadha means a person who is resident of the country known as Magadha. As to Vedic, Panini says Vedic means a person who is resident of the country known as Vidya. What a contrast. How cruel it is. Panini lived not later than 300 BC. Manu lived about 200 AD. How is that people who bore no stigma in the time of Panini became so stained in the hands of Manu? The answer is that Manu was bent on debasing them. Why Manu was bent on deliberately debasing people is a task which is still awaiting exploration. In the meantime, we have the strange contrast that while religion everywhere else is engaged in the task of raising and ennobling mankind, Hinduism is busy in debasing and degrading it.
We take a pause here because this is very interesting discussion. And Baba Saheb Ambedkar is completely destroying the Manu Smriti here. He's saying that according to Manu, all these different castes, for example, Chandalas are born out of Brahmin women and the Shudra man. And he says that, how do you account for this huge population of Chandals in this country? So the possible, the only plausible explanation of that is this, that all the Brahmin women were adulterers. They were, they were whores or slut, and every Shudra lived an adulterous life. That's how you can account for this huge population of the Chandals. So he says that this Manu's logic is pervert. His mind is pervert. He's a madman. He's illogical. And then he goes on, why Manu is trying to castigate these two people, Magadha and Vedic, when according to Panini and grammarian Panini, they were like they represented the geographical area. And it's true that there were geographical areas like Magad and Vaidehi. While this crook Manu is saying that Magdas, the Magadhas are born out of sexual intercourse between a Vaishya male and Kshatriya female. And Vaideka is a caste which is born from sexual intercourse between a Vaishya male and a Brahmin female. So you see that this Manu was hell bent on debasing people. And that is a possible origin of even the untouchability, and it's linked with Buddhism, because Magad was the very strong hold of Buddhism. Vaidehi was a very strong hold of Buddhism, and they were very noble people, as we know from the Indian history. And Manu is going on degrading them. And you see, the Manu's time period, if you note, is 200 AD. 200 AD is the time when the counter revolution against Buddhism was at the peak of it, at the height of it. Manu is the post-Buddhist text. It's not something which is coming from eternity. So you see, this is very interesting that when the other religion everywhere are trying to ennoble the mankind, Hinduism is busy in debasing and degrading it. Remarkable sort of an analysis which Baba Saheb Ambedkar has done here. It's not easy to bring all this contradiction in a few paragraphs. So anybody would like to say anything, or should we go on reading?
So the point that highlighted here regarding that Manu lived about 200 AD and Panani 300 BC. The Buddhism state at that time can be explored from somewhere.
Yeah. Buddhism was still very strong, because this started with the Brihadrat assassination of Brihadrat by Pushyamitra Shrunga, but doesn't mean that the Buddhism, he could finish the Buddhism. He couldn't, because there were Buddhist kings all over the places, and Buddhism continued to live in a lot of areas. So this thought of Manu didn't become reality in one day. It took years and years, centuries and centuries of this Brahminical propaganda, Brahminical counter-revolution, Brahminical violence against Buddhism.
Okay, sir.
Isn't it? There are books which are critical of Manu, even the Buddhist books which are critical of Manu. There is a very interesting book which is written by Ashwa Ghosh called Vajra Suchi, the Diamond Needle, which has sort of penetrates these very books of the Hindus, the Brahmins. It's very critical. The Buddhist philosophers were very critical. Particularly Dharmakirti was very critical of Brahminical Hinduism.
Right, sir.
And we can still read those books, how they were critical.
Badan Ranan Kausalyan also had written one book on Manusmriti, why it was burned.
Very good.
So that also is very good book.
Very good. Maybe you can give a summary of that later on. You can write it for us. It would be very helpful to us, Mahasenji.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody? Any comment? Do you see the importance of this discussion in the book as we are reading it?
Very much, sir. It's very much relevant and need of an hour also.
Right, exactly. All right, then Nikhil, please go on reading further.
Sure, sir. The other instance I went to use for illustrating the spirit of debasement, which is inherent in Hinduism, pertains to rules regarding the naming of a Hindu child. The names among Hindus fall into 4 classes. They are either connected with the family deity, second, the month in which the child is born, third, with the planets under which a child is born, or fourth, are purely temporal, that is connected with business. According to Manu, the temporal name of a Hindu should consist of 2 parts, and Manu gives direction as to what the first and the second part should denote. The second part of a Brahmin's name shall be a word implying happiness, of a Kshatriya's a word implying protection, of a Vaishya's a term expressive of prosperity, and of a Shudra's an expression denoting service. According to the Brahmins, having Shatma, happiness, or Deva, God, the Kshatriyas have Raja, authority, or Varma, armor. The Vaishyas have Gupta, gifts, or Datta, giver, and the Shudras have Das, service, for the second part of their names. As to the first part of their names, Manu says that in the case of a Brahmin, it should denote something auspicious. In the case of a Kshatriya, something connected with power. In the case of a Vaishya, something connected with wealth. But in the case of a Shudra, Manu says the first part of his name should denote something contemptible. Those who think that such a philosophy is incredible would like to know the exact reference. For their satisfaction, I am reproducing the following text from Manu regarding the naming ceremony. Manu says, 230, let the father perform or cause to be performed the Namdeya, the rite of naming the child, on the 10th or 12th day of birth, day after birth, or on a lucky lunar day in a lucky muhurat under an auspicious constellation. 231. Let the first part of a Brahmin's name denote something auspicious, a Kshatriya's name be connected with power, and a Vaishya's with wealth, but Shudras express something contemplable. 232. The second part of a Brahmin's name shall be a word implying happiness. Just a minute.
No problem, no problem. Take your time.
232. The second part of a Brahmin's name shall be a word implying happiness, of a Kshatriya's word implying protection, of a Vaishya's a term expressive of thriving, and of a Shudra's an expression denoting service. Manu will not tolerate the Shudra to have the comfort of a high sounding name. He must be contemptible both in fact and in name. Enough has been said to show how Hinduism is a denial of equality, both social as well as religious, and how it is also a degradation of human personality.
Okay. So this discussion that we just had, the reading we just had, was focused on how the Hinduism denies equality, and how inequality is inbuilt in the Hindu philosophy or Brahminical philosophy, both social inequality and the religious inequality. And that's very remarkably sort of referenced into Manusmriti, and Baba Ambedkar has shown how the inequality is the very heart of the Brahminical Hindu religion. So now we will look at, does Hinduism recognize liberty? The discussion we had was about, does Hinduism recognize equality? And the answer is conclusive no, definite no. And now we will turn to what is called, does Hinduism recognize liberty? So carry on, Nikhil.
Does Hinduism recognize liberty? Liberty, to be real, must be accompanied by certain social conditions. In the first place, there should be social equality. Privilege tilts the balance of social action in favor of its possessors. The more equal are the rights of citizens, the more able they are to utilize their freedom. If liberty is to move to its appointed end, it is important that there should be equality. In the second place, there must be economic security. A man may be free to enter any vocation he may choose, yet, if he is deprived of security in employment, he becomes a prey of mental and physical servitude incompatible with the very essence of liberty. The perpetual fear of the morrow, its haunting sense of impending disaster, its fitful search for happiness and beauty, which perpetually eludes, shows that without economic security, liberty is not worth having. Men may well be free and yet remain unable to realize the purpose of freedom. In the third place, there must be knowledge made available to all. In the complex world, a man lives at his peril and must find his way in it without losing his freedom. There can, under these conditions, be no freedom that is worthwhile unless the mind is trained to use its freedom. Given this fact, the right of man to education becomes fundamental to his freedom. Deprive a man of knowledge, and you will make him inevitably the slave of those more fortunate than himself. Deprivation of knowledge is a denial of the power to use liberty for great ends. An ignorant man may be free, but he cannot employ his freedom so as to give him assurance of happiness.
Yes, Nikhil, we will pause here for a while, because I think these paragraphs, they looks very short, but they are very, very important. And we should emphatically understand and read these paragraphs, because they have something so deep inside them that when we talk about the trinity of these principles like liberty, equality, and fraternity, we always talk about liberty at the top value without understanding that without equality there cannot be liberty. I think it's very profound insight. They are interdependent values. Like we cannot separate one from another. If there is no equality, there is no liberty, there is no fraternity, so on and so forth. And this profound sort of a statement that liberty is possible only under some certain social conditions. If those social conditions are absent, there is no liberty for a human being. So what are the social conditions? One is that there has to be social equality. Without social equality, there cannot be liberty. It's very profound sort of a analysis of Babasaheb Ambedkar. It says economic security is very important. Without economic security, there cannot be liberty. And finally, he says that there must be knowledge for the people in order for them to feel that they are liberated or they are liberated. And this very sentence, if we can think over it. No freedom that is worthwhile unless the mind is trained to use its freedom. You see, even if there is freedom, but if there is no training of mind to use its freedom, we will all be in the slavery. For example, now even after the force of Manusmriti is gone, the highest law of the land is the Constitution of India. Despite of that, a lot of people, majority of the people are living the life of a slave. Why? Because their minds are not trained to use its freedom. So even if externally we are free today, but our minds are still enslaved by the ideas, by the religion, by the hegemonic sort of frameworks that has been imposed on us by the Brahminical social order. And by virtue of that, because we are not trained to use the freedom is not, it's useless to have freedom. So in order to use the freedom, there has to be the training of mind.
So it can be well connected with the Mansik Gulami.
Yes. It's very true. Very profound. These paragraphs, you think, if you take it into academic discourse, write papers after papers on it, even then it will not exhaust.
Yes, sir. It's true.
It's such a rich sort of a material that Babasaheb Ambedkar has produced.
In
One
2-3
question
lines
only.
only, we can write a lot of thesis on this.
A lot of things on this. Harsh,
One
you wanted
question,
to
Mangesh.
Harsh.
Yeah, the one he says regarding the naming ceremony
Yeah.
in above paragraphs, does it something relates to the Gotra, that what they are very proud of?
Of course, the names have an impact. The labels have an impact. And Babasaheb Ambedkar says in the Annihilation of Caste that these labels must be destroyed. Why the Brahmins should be called Brahmins, and why should they feel proud to be called so-called Brahmins? Why a Brahmin should be addressed as a Panditji? You see, and the Vaishyas Lala. In North India, it goes on. They will call Lala, even if he's whatever he is, they will call them Lala, and then they will call Panditji. Okay. So, for example, the names of the Shudras, they produce an effect on the people. It's about the Gotras or whatever, but in the scheme of Manu, the names perpetuate the inequality. And there are a lot of experiments, regarding that. Harsh?
So this is also right now it's in practice. Means if you pronounce your first name only, then people will insist you to kindly spell your complete name.
Yes.
They are trying to identify
Yeah.
the identity, and it is still practices in this North India, in Hindi speaking areas. It's very much visible.
Yeah, I think that's what like Lalu Prasad used to say, that while giving speeches, like Bura Bal Saaf Karo. So I don't know if anyone of you know that. But like, Bura Bal Saaf Karo means Bhumihar, like Rajput, Brahman, and like Lala. These are in the Saaf Karo. He used to talk like that in his speeches. So
Yes.
that's why right now he is in the jail.
No, that's true. And that's why, Namantar is very important.
Mm.
That's why Namantar is very important. Dharmantar is very important. And if possible, the migration is very important. This trinity of Namantar, Dharmantar, and Deshantar, very important.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, guys, we should go on reading further. Nikhil?
Yes, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah. Who wants to reflect? If not, then Nikhil, please go on reading.
Yeah, this is all the trinity of Namantar, Dharmantar, and this will ultimately lead to really freedom of the mind, I think.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we want ultimately.
Yes.
Relief from the enslavement of the mind.
Yes.
Yeah, please continue.
Which of these conditions does Hinduism satisfy? How Hinduism is a denial of equality has already been made clear. It upholds privilege and inequality. Thus, in Hinduism, the very first condition for liberty is conspicuous by its absence. Regarding economic security, three things shine out in Hinduism. In the first place, Hinduism denies freedom of a vocation. In the scheme of Manu, each man has his avocation preordained for him before he is born. Hinduism allows no choice. The occupation being preordained, it has no relation to capacity nor to inclination. In the second place, Hinduism compels people to serve ends chosen by others. Manu tells Shudras that he is born to serve the higher classes. He exhorts him to make that his ideal. Observe the following rules laid down by Manu. 10:121. If a Shudra, unable to subsist by serving Brahmanas, seeks a livelihood, he may serve Kshatriyas, or he may also seek to maintain himself by attending on a wealthy Vaishya. 10:122. But let a Shudra serve Brahmins.
Yeah, Nikhil.
Yeah.
There are some things, some sentences which are very important, and one very interesting line that I have been one of my favorite lines is, compelling people to serve ends chosen by others. If you look at the caste system, all the ends are chosen by the other people. The people, for example, the Shudras, the women, and the so-called Avarnas have no freedom to work for their own ends. Their lives are governed by the needs of others. And I think the ultimate aim of, the ultimate freedom is to be governed by yourself, not by anybody, not by society, not by any group of people, any class of people. We should have that kind of a choice to serve our own ends, and they should be chosen by us. They should not be chosen by other people. This is very profoundly liberating sentence that Baba Ambedkar has put it into. Our vocations have been preordained by the caste system. If you are a chamar, you have to do this. If you are a dhobi, you have to do this. This like this. So where is the choice? Where is a person's choice to choose his or her own ends instead of becoming slaves to the ends and to the servitude of other people? Very profound. These paragraphs are very profound of liberty. Okay, go on, Nikhil.
Manu does not leave the matter of acting upon to the ideal or to the Shudra. He goes a step further and provides that the Shudra does not escape or avoid his destined task. For one of the duties enjoined by Manu upon the king is to see that all castes, including the Shudra, to discharge their appointed task.
This is what is called the protection of Varnashrama Dharma. Yada Yadai Dharmasya. Okay, so the king has to follow the Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma. He has to ensure that the Varnashrama Dharma is followed. Go on.
8410, the king should order each man of his mercantile class to practice trade or money lending or agriculture and attendance on cattle, and each man of the servile class to act in the service of the twice born. 8418, with vigilant care should the king exert himself in compelling merchants and mechanics to perform their respective duties, for which such men swear from their duty, they throw this world into confusion. Failure to maintain was made an offense in the king, punishable at law. 8335, neither a father nor a preceptor, nor a friend nor a mother, nor a wife nor a son, nor a domestic priest must be left unpunished by the king if they adhere not with firmness to their duty. 8336, where another man of lower birth would be fined 1 pana, the king shall be fined 1,000, and he shall give the fine to the priest or cast it into the river. This is a sacred rule. These rules have a twofold significance, spiritual as well as economic. In the spiritual sense, they constitute the gospel of slavery. This may not be quite apparent to those who know slavery only by its legal outward form and not by reference to its inner meaning. With reference to its inner meaning, a slave, as defined by Plato, means a person who accepts from another the purposes which control his conduct. In this sense, a slave is not an end in himself. He is only a means for filling the ends desired by others. Thus, understood, the Shudra is a slave. In their economic significance, the rules put an interdict on the economic independence of the Shudra. A Shudra, says Manu, must serve. These may not be in that to complain of. The wrong, however, consists in that the rules require him to serve others. He is not to serve himself, which means that he must not strive after economic independence. He must forever remain economically dependent on others. For as Manu says, 191, one occupation only the Lord prescribed to the Shudra to serve meekly even these other three castes. In the third place, Hinduism leaves no scope for the Shudra to accumulate wealth. Manu's rule regarding the wages to be paid to the Shudra when employed by the three higher classes are very instructive on this point. Dealing with the question of wages to the Shudras, Manu says, they must allot to him, Shudra, out of their own family property a suitable maintenance after considering his ability, his industry, and the number of those whom is bound to support. 10.125, the remnants of their food must be given to him, as well as their old clothes, the refuse of their grain, and their old household furniture. This is Manu's law of wages. It is not a minimum wage law, it is a maximum wage law. It is also an iron law fixed so low that there was no fear of the Shudra accumulating wealth and obtaining economic security. But Manu did not want to take chances, and he went to the length of prohibiting the Shudra from accumulating property. He says imperatively, 10.129, no collection of wealth must be made by Shudra, even though he be able to do it. For a Shudra who has acquired wealth gives pain to Brahmins.
Okay. As we have seen in this discussion, the definition of a slave. So often we talk about the slavery in America and the slavery elsewhere. And very potent definition which Babasaheb Ambedkar has taken from Plato. Who is a slave? So who is a slave? You know, a slave is a person who accepts from another the purposes which controls his conduct. It's very deep meaning. So, in a sense, we are all, slaves to some things because we are governed by the wants and the desires of other people. And that's very important. That's what is the slavery is all about. So see the slavery that we see that Hinduism perpetuates is more obnoxious than the legal slavery. For example, the slavery that was imposed on the African Americans was sort of a legal slavery. But here, if you look at the Hinduism, the way it has promoted the slavery, it's very deep slavery, I would say. It's very deep slavery. The slavery of not just mind, but of the person himself through the religion, that only you have to serve other people. You cannot be your own self. You have to serve others. And this definition goes on so at the heart of it. And economic independence. economic independence is so vital. You see the way the people were made into slaves by making them dependent economically on the class of people, on certain groups of people. Even today, because of the economical dependence of the people on another human beings, they tend to become slaves. And I think this is very interesting sort of a discussion about Manu's law of wages.
But Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar here says
Hmm.
that what Plato has said, that the condition of Shudras
Hmm.
in India is more precarious than those slaves,
Very true. Very true.
because they have to they have to use only menial things.
Hmm.
Means the food, even the remained food,
Yes.
they should give remained food and old furniture, etc., and whatnot.
Very true.
And Babasaheb Ambedkar had said that untouchability is so worse that in Negro up South Africa, at least they touch them.
Yes.
Negroes are touched, but we are not even touched. That is the difference.
Yes.
That is more dangerous.
Very true.
Even our position is more precarious than a Negro, like that he had mentioned.
Very true.
They are not touching even us.
Yes.
Even
But,
shadow is also
Brother Mahasen,
limited.
this discussion has been about the Shudras, OBCs.
Yes.
Okay, because now the untouchability, the Shudras and Ati
Manu
Shudras.
has prescribed is
Yes.
that Shudra should be given only menial things by
Yes.
the upper castes.
So by this thing, all the Shudras in this country are the slaves, but they don't realize that they are slaves. That's why we have to make them understand that they are slaves.
See, here I remember the speech given by Ramvilas Paswan when he was in socialist group. That time he had said the Mali gardener, he cultivates flower, but who uses the garland?
Yes.
Garlands are used for upper castes only.
Yes.
Dhobi, now he cleans others' clothes.
Yes.
But he himself is having a very dirty clothes and all that. Like that.
True.
Contradiction is there.
True.
Profession, even in profession also.
True. Very true. Very true, Mahasenji.
Yes.
Okay, read on further paragraph. Nikhil, it may be too much for you today, but please carry on. We will read another paragraph and then we will stop. Okay, please go on.
Thus, in Hinduism, there is no choice of evocation. There is no economic independence and there is no economic security. Economically speaking, of a Shudra is a precarious thing. It is a matter of the spread of knowledge. Two conditions are prerequisites. There must be formal education. There must be literacy. Without these two, education cannot spread. Without formal education, it is not possible to transmit all the resources and achievements of a complex society. Without formal education, the accumulated thought and experience relating to a subject cannot be made accessible to the young, and which they will never get if they were left to pick up their training in informal association with others. Without formal education, he will not get new perceptions. His horizon will not be widened, and he will remain an ignorant slave of his routine work. But formal education involves the establishment of special agencies such as schools, books, planned materials such as studies, etc. How can anyone take advantage of these special agencies of formal education unless he is literate and able to read and write? The spread of the arts of reading and writing, that is literacy and formal education, go hand in hand. Without the existence of these two, there can be no spread of knowledge.
Go on.
How does Hinduism stand in this matter? The conception of formal education in Hinduism is of a very limited character. Formal education was confined only to the study of the Vedas. That was only natural. For the Hindus believed that there was no knowledge outside the Vedas. That being so, formal education was confined to the study of the Vedas. Another consequence was that the Hindu recognized that its only duty was to study in the schools established for the study of the Vedas. These schools benefited only the Brahmins. The state did not hold itself responsible for opening establishments for the study of arts and sciences which concerned the life of the merchant and artisan. Neglected by the state, they had to shift for themselves. Each class managed to transmit to its members the ways of doing things it was traditionally engaged in doing. The duties of the Vaishya class required that a young Vaishya should know the rudiments of commercial geography, arithmetic, some languages, as well as practical details of trade. This he learned from his father in the course of the business. The artisans class or the craftsmen who sprang out of the Shudra class also taught the arts and crafts to their children in the same way. Education was domestic, education was practical. It only increased the skill to do a particular thing. It did not lead to new perceptions, it did not widen horizon, with the result that the practical education taught him only an isolated and uniform way of acting, so that in the changing environment, the skill turned out to be gross ineptitude. Illiteracy became an inherent part of Hinduism by a process which is indirect but integral to Hinduism. To understand this process, it is necessary to draw attention to rules framed by Manu in regard to the rights to teach and study the Vedas. They are dealt with in the following rules. First, 88 to the Brahmanas, the creator assigned teaching and studying the Veda. 189, the Kshatriya, he the creator commanded to study the Veda. 190, the Vaishya, he the creator commanded to study the Veda. 2116, he who shall acquire knowledge of the Veda without the assent of his preceptor incurs the guilt of stealing the scripture and shall sink to the region of torment. 499, he the twice born must never read the Veda in the presence of the Shudras. 918, women have no business with the text of the Veda. 11199, a twice born man who has improperly divulged the Veda, that is to Shudras and women, commits sin, atones for his offense if he subsists a year on barley. In these texts, there are embodied three distinct prepositions. The Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya can study the Vedas. Of these, the Brahmins alone have the right to teach the Vedas, but in the case of the Shudra, he is not only to study the Vedas, but he should not be allowed to hear it read.
Okay, so here maybe we will stop today our class, and we will spend some time in reflecting and discussing on certain elements that we have read. And I think this discussion on formal education and the domestic education is very important for all of us to understand, because the formal education is like a transfer of the accumulated knowledge of one generation to another generation. It's a very complex process, and without the formal education system, it cannot happen. Number one. Number two is, this formal education, as Baba Ambedkar said, needs special agencies such as schools, books, plant material, etc., etc., etc. So, without this literacy and formal education, they go hand in hand. There cannot be spread of knowledge. And that brings us to the knowledge production system that the Buddhists initiated in this country through the media of the universities. And we know that the Buddhists have never differentiated from people to come and learn from their institutions. And they had the system of books, they had schools, they had plant materials, so on and so forth. So compared to the Brahminical sort of a system of education, where only the Vedas were center of it, and they didn't consider the knowledge outside Vedas as the true knowledge. And even today, a lot of people say like that. So to them, our answer will be, stop reading physics, stop reading chemistry, only read Vedas. The Dvijas, for example, they should only study Vedas. Why? What business they have got to read the science, the psychology, the physics, the information technology, so on and so forth. Isn't it? So you see, it's very sort of, I would say, duplicity. There is a duplicity in this religion. And we can see that that duplicity is so evident, even at the face of it. Even at the face of it, that duplicity is so evident that we can all see that kind of a duplicity that's coming into fore. And Baba Ambedkar says that, the practical education was transferred from one generation to another in the different classes, but it didn't change. It didn't allow the change in the perception. And the importance of this education is to is to give rise to the new perception, new ideas, new thoughts, new attitudes. And if the education is failing to give new perceptions, that education is useless. I think these very profound sort of statements on education that Baba Ambedkar has put into this particular book, and we all need to imbibe them deeply. We all need to study them deeply, understand them deeply, so that we begin to see what is the formal education, and how this domestic education was useless, was of no use, only for the survival, only to do the farming, only to do certain artists work as an artisan. So this particular discussion showing that the Brahminical system didn't encourage the knowledge, the production of knowledge, the knowledge itself, it didn't encourage, and therefore it didn't give the people the means for their liberation to be free. Because as we have seen, even if there is a freedom out there, our minds needs to be trained to enjoy that freedom, and that training of enjoying the freedom comes through the education, comes through the new perceptions and ability to go beyond the normal the drudgery of life. You see, so I think this is very profound sort of a discussion that is being done by Baba Ambedkar in this very profound book. So we will open up for any discussion, any comment before we conclude for today.
Sir, the preciousness of all the knowledge that we are getting from these chapters also has gone through 31 years of legal struggle. That we should know it. Means after Baba Sahib Mahaparinirayan in 1956, everything has been attached to the court.
Yes.
His all the writings,
Yes.
and all were trunked in 20 years, for 25 years.
Yes.
And now you can see the quality of paper on which these philosophies has been written, at what condition they were, and now how Mr. Bansud and Mr. Moon has brought all such philosophies to us. And it should be highlighted. These papers and these philosophies have been come to us with a lot of struggle. It's written in the introduction part of the book. I would request you to kindly highlight all these things to all of us too, sir.
Yes. Why not? I think this process of reading together, understanding together, to me is like training our minds into thinking. And I think a lot of us needs to engage with the writings and speeches of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Umesh, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Very true, sir. Very true. And
yeah, even Annihilation of Caste, we are stuck on one text, but there is so much. Baba Sahib Ambedkar has done so much on so many topics, and we need to engage with them.
Yeah, there are 21 volumes.
Yes.
And we should we must read them, and also bring it to the fellow peoples also. Means,
yes.
This is the change that is required of the era. Means
I fully agree.
Sir.
I fully agree with whatever you are saying, because that is what we need to do. We need to not only learn ourselves, but also need to teach others and spread this very precious knowledge. That point I agree with you fully and completely, Brother Umesh.
Sir.
Anything from any other person? Harsh, you wanted to say something? Anybody? Mahasenji? Mangesh is here today.
No, just I wanted to tell that this Rajasthan High Court, you must be knowing that they have installed one statue of Manu right in front of High Court.
Yes.
Some people are agitating against it, but how that got installed? Any idea?
No, I have no idea. We have to look into that, because some people have done the history of that statue, and that information can be made available. But I have not studied it, sir.
Such a nasty person
Yeah.
Why he should be remembered all, all the time?
No, that is
Whoever
why,
visiting this-
sir, sir, like a person like you or others should write articles based on this.
Yes, yes, yes,
in
yes, yes.
vernacular languages and in all different media, and they should challenge.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes, yes.
Challenge, it's not that we can take everything lying low now. We have to stand
Yes,
up
yes.
and we have to fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even this government also is, observing those things imposed by Manu.
Yeah.
For example, this unemployment
Hmm.
generation.
Yes.
There seems to be a philosophy
Yes.
that
yes.
once they are, earning is stopped,
Hmm.
they will mentally become slave,
Mhm.
and then they can impose their religion on that.
Very true. Very
Like
true.
that.
Very true. Very true. Very true. That's very true.
Like that, we have to be very, very alert and united.
Yeah.
But
I agree fully.
fact is otherwise.
I agree with you fully, brother. So that is it for
Okay,
today.
we can conclude now.
Thank you so much for the participation today, and particularly thank you, Nikhil, for taking so much of efforts to read.
He read very patiently.
Yeah, it's not easy to read such kind of a text, but
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
yes. This requires stamina.
Yeah.
Reading is also requires stamina. Young
Yes.
person should, undertake this job.
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
when morning, this Mr. Kamble had put that post, na, some volunteer is required. I was afraid who will be ready. Otherwise, I thought that I may read at the things.
Yeah.
But this is very stupendous task.
Yeah. Okay, then today we will
Thanks
conclude.
to Nikhil, he has done nice work.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you so much. And we will conclude here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jai
Thank you.
Bhim, Namaskar.
Jai Bhim to you.